Hello again. Today I'm going to present the Ideologies of Globalization by Manfred Steger. So this is the other reading, the 20 pages reading. So I wanted to discuss this in a different PowerPoint in order for me to fully elaborate the concepts within the lesson. So just a reminder, gaya ng nabanggit sa orientation, please do not send the link or post the link on Facebook unless it is with your classmates. Please do understand that I am very particular with these videos being shared with students of SOCSA 1105 who are not my students as it may confuse them. Please understand that na meron kasing mga teachers na iba ang approach sa subject na ito dahil like for example, in my case, my approach is more in the political and the economic side. So please refrain from posting the links in Facebook as I will cease in making or I will stop making these videos once the links are posted in Facebook as other people who are students of other teachers in SS 1105 might see it and be confused with what I am saying and what their teacher is actually saying. So please bear with me with that instruction. So just a reminder again, I will cease or stop making videos like this, especially for the next sessions. If I see or I was made aware of cases wherein the links are posted in Facebook and people who are not my students are viewing the videos as it may confuse them. Please bear with me with that. So setting that aside, here is a photograph of Manfred Steger. So I have a link there if you want to check it out. So he is a professor of global and transnational sociology at the University of Hawaii at Manoa and is currently a global professorial fellow. So he is a graduate of political science from his bachelor's degree up until to his doctorate degree. So there is also a link there of if you want to view the researches that he already published, and more of his background in terms of serving as a consultant regarding globalization. So as an introduction, the ideologies of globalization began with Frieden actually questioning the extent to which political ideologies can be holistic. So kung mapapansin nyo, yung article ni Stagger ay nagsimula by analyzing Frieden's assumption that political belief systems can be holistic. Gusto kasi ni Frieden as much as possible since yung political belief systems today seems to be numerous, that there should be one holistic approach, and that is actually leading towards the concept of globalization. So in relation, globalism became a viable option. What is ideology in the first place? So when we say ideology, it is an integrated assertions, theories, and aims that constitute a socio-political program, a systematic body of concepts. So ano yung sinabi ni Stagger na problem with Frieden's analysis? The problem with Frieden's analysis is there is no differentiation or fragmentation of ideologies, and there is a difficulty of capturing the changing morphologies of political belief system. Pag sinabing difficulty of capturing the changing morphologies of the political belief system, beliefs kasi and ideologies change over time. They may bank on a certain political foundation, but it can be modified as time goes by, as time changes or as situation promotes them. So ang point ni Stagger, bukod sa wala ka nang makuhang it's difficult to differentiate political belief systems with one another. It's one thing again to have these political belief systems change over time. So kumbaga parang ang point, mahirap na nga i-distinguish si Juan kay Pedro at the same time si Juan at si Pedro ay lumalaki na, hindi na sila bata, no? So parang ang point, dalawang yung nagiging problem na ipino-point out ni Stagger dun sa kanyang article. So what are the solutions that he offers? First, question the implicit holism in the notion of these ideological lines of inquiry, and then query the dominant conventions of classifying and categorizing ideologies. So let's say, for example, ang sinasabi ni Frieden, in order to solve the of Stagger, in order to solve the Frieden problem, you need to question whether holism is the way to go, or there is another strategy that can be employed in order to study these ideological lines of inquiry. So ang tanong ay, dapat nga bang i-view siya sa iisang glass, isang malaking glass, or there should be multiple glasses or multiple points of references to which you can study these different political belief systems. Yung pangalawa naman, you query the dominant conventions. Ibig sabihin, you question, no, whether these ideologies are still existing and whether they are still relevant. Ngayon, baka magtatanong kayo, ma'am, ano po ba yung political belief systems? Kasi may iba't ibang paniniwala regarding how governments should run. These are political belief systems. How government should run, how the government should promote the economy, how the government should enforce laws, no? So magkakaibang bagay yon, no? And how the government should provide welfare and care to its citizens. So these are political belief systems na magkakaiba eh. Meron kasing mga camps, or parang katulad dun sa ano natin, sa nauna nating video, may mga camps na naniniwala sa ibang pamamaraan ng paggawa ng, like for example, how the government should run, how the laws should be enforced, how citizens should be taken care of. So may iba't ibang pamamaraan ang mga kampo or different political belief systems are different in terms of addressing these things. So yun yung sinasabi ni Frieden, na sinasabi ni Frieden, pag samasamahin na lang natin yung political belief systems na yan under one umbrella. Sinasabi ni Stagger, that's difficult, yan nga, nabanggit na sa PowerPoint natin kung ano yung problem, no? So, globalism was said to be a possible holistic contender, but however, there should be imaginative thought exercises. So, to further, ayun pa nga, gaya na nabanggit, political belief systems have shifting morphology, so nagbabago sila over time. So, Stagger contradicted Frieden and claimed that it is too early to pronounce that globalism as an ideology should be the general thing, no? So basically, ang sinasabi ni Stagger, parang let's review whether globalism is the way to go. Para siyang skeptical, ano? Instead, globalism do not have an enough set of political ideas and beliefs that qualify a new ideology, but it is a dominant political belief system. So yun ang sinasabi. Yun yung sinasabi ko kanina. Si Frieden kasi would like to promote that these political belief systems should be put under one umbrella, which is globalism. However, Stagger would say na no, let's not go there. No? Wag pa tayong pumunta doon because globalism is parang skeptical pa nga siya. No? Globalism is too early to be pronounced as an ideology. More so, to be the ideology that would handle all of these political belief systems. So anong ginawa ni Stagger? He differentiated, no? He differentiated what globalization is, what globality is, and what globalism is. So the differences between the three are, you can see in the PowerPoint. First, globalization denotes not an ideology, but it is a range of processes nesting under one way rather unwieldy epithet. So when we say globalization, we may not be aware of it as it is a constant development. Proseso kasi siya, no? Isa siyang proseso. So hindi mo siya talaga makikita unless merong, 'di ba, parang unless may end product. Same with, let's say for example, your education. 'Di ba, yung pag-aaral mo ay isang proseso. Hindi mo pa makikita ang end product unless graduate ka. Same with globalization. So globalization as a process is difficult to see. It is not evident because it is an ongoing process. So, paano mo yun makikita? Yun nga, ang possible manifestations of globalization, according to Stagger, are the scapes by Apadurai that we have discussed in the previous video. So, ang point, sa kanilang tatlo, no, the concept of globalization is something that is ongoing. Okay? While globality, on the other hand, is a future social condition characterized by thick economic, political, and cultural interconnections and global flows that make currently existing political borders and economic barriers relevant. So ano naman si globality? Si globality is a future social condition. Let's stick to that notion. When we say that it is a social condition, parang ano yan eh, let's have an analogy of, let's say for example, health condition. Pag tinanong ka, ano ang health condition mo? Tapos let's say for example, a person is suffering from dengue. So the health condition there is dengue, no? You're suffering from dengue. Pero ang question is, what are the manifestations of dengue as a health condition? So di ba ang mga manifestations ng dengue, meron kang mga rashes, nilalagnat ka, okay, nanghihina ka, etc. Same with the concept of globality. And take note, for Stagger, globality is a future social condition. It's something that we will arrive to. Okay? So kung globalization is the process, globality is the condition, the social condition. How would you know that we are already there in that said social condition? Parang same lang din. Paano mo ba nalalaman na meron kang health condition which is dengue? So, merong manifestations, okay? Same with this one. Ang manifestations naman ng globality according to Stagger is one, individualism and competition. So, when countries and individuals became more individualistic and more competitive due to the proliferation of the capitalistic economic system, pwede mo nang sabihin daw that there is globality. Or the second one, no? The second manifestation naman is when, aside from being individualistic, there are communal and cooperative social arrangements that allow cooperation amidst the fact that people are competitive and individualistic. So mamanghirap naman po nun. Individualistic ako at saka competitive ako at the same time may concept of communality and cooperative social arrangements. Kaya nga siya isang future social condition. It's something that we will arrive to in the future. Kasi ngayon guys, parang ang konsepto, we are in that phase, no, na we are competitive, we are individualistic because we want to get profit as much as possible, no? Gusto natin meron tayong nakukuha lagi sa dulo. No, may it not be money, but it's something that would benefit us in the end. That's us being individualistic and competitive na in itself, no? Bakit mo gustong manalo sa contest? Kasi pwede mong ipakita yan sa resume mo. Bakit gusto mong maging cum laude? Kasi gusto mong meron kang maging edge kapag maghahanap ka ng work. That's something that's not monetary, but it's something that you need to get out of, no? So, ang gagawin mo ay you would be individualistic, you would be competitive in order to get it in the end, no? But at the same time, you want, in the concept of globalization, of globality, there is communality and cooperative social arrangements. You cannot go get the cum laude thing if you are not going to work with other people, no? So kahit nasabihin mo, yes, competitive ako, yes, individualistic ako at matalino ako, etc., it's difficult to be an honor student kung hindi ka makikipag-work sa mga kaklase mo, no? There's group works basically work as a group, not just an individual. So hindi ka rin makakakuha ng magandang grade kung ikaw lang lahat ang gagawa sa group report. Okay? So basically ganun ang sinasabi ni Stagger. Darating ang time that the manifestation of globality as a social condition would appear to be a fusion of being individualistic and competitive and at the same time being communal and having cooperative social arrangements. So, at the same time, globalization, on the other hand, globalization is the set of complex, sometimes contradictory social processes. Nabanggit ko na pala yan. Sa globalism na tayo. Globalism is the political belief system. So, yun na nga, yung nabanggit natin kanina sa introduction, na ang ino-offer ni Frieden, globalism should be the holistic way of, or a holistic way of putting all of the present political belief system in one roof or in one umbrella. So according to Stagger, yes, globalism is the political belief system. Ito yung paniniwala. Ito yung paniniwala na globalization is happening, that globality will happen. Okay? So, yun, po-point out ko yun. Globalism, I will reiterate, is an ideology. It is a political belief system. Yun yung paniniwala that the processes under globalization is indeed happening, and that globality as a future social condition will happen in the end. Okay? So, yun po yun. Next. What are the 6 core claims of globalism? Stagger offers 3 useful criteria in determining the status of a particular political belief system. So, these are degree of uniqueness and morphological sophistication, context-bound responsiveness to a broad range of issues, and the ability to produce effective conceptual decontestation chains. So, ideological claims are systems with specific meanings that benefit particular social groups. So, yun nga, basically for Stagger, in order to claim that globalism as a political belief system is present, no? Itong tatlo na to hinahanap niya. Ito yung parang criteria niya in order to claim or to support freedom that globalism as a political belief system is indeed in place, or is indeed present or incapable of producing or explaining, no, the phenomenon that is happening now. So what is the first claim? Claim 1, globalization is about the liberalization and global integration of markets. When we say liberalization, you have fewer government interventions, regulations, and restrictions, which will allow freer movement of money, goods, and services within the market. So this claim offers an authoritative definition of globalization designed for broad public consumption. So globalization here is said to be the triumph of markets over governments. When using this claim, globalization is driven by free market capitalism. The more you make market forces rule and the more you open your economy to free trade and competition, the more efficient your economy will be. So globalization in this claim is primarily economic. So ano lang sinasabi nitong claim 1? Claim 1 is basically saying that globalization are the set of processes that liberalize and integrate global markets. Okay? So, kung babalikan nyo, ano yung definition ng Stagger ng globalization? It is a set of processes. Ngayon, ano ngayon yung process sa claim 1? Ang kiniklaim ngayon ay the processes are in relation to the liberalization and global integration of markets. When we say liberalization, sinasabi natin doon, mas free yung market. Mas konti yung mga batas na pwedeng i-impose ng gobyerno para sa trading ng goods. Okay? So let's be clear with that. Yun ang sinasabi ng claim 1. Yung claim 2 naman, globalization is inevitable and irreversible. So meron tinatawag na historical inevitability. So when we say historical inevitability, so ang sinasabi nito, ang globalization daw ay hindi na pwedeng hindi matuloy. So the processes within globalization cannot be reversed, and it cannot be denied. So katulad niyan, lalo na nung nangyari yung 9/11 incident. So kung naalala niyo yung building na terrorized, no, na pinasabog, no. After the 9/11 incident, it was said that the United States opted to have more connections with countries in order to pursue the concept that globalization as it is already there, no? It is a natural force like the weather or gravity, and makes it easier for globalists to convince people that they have to adapt. So, ang sinasabi rin ng claim 2, since we cannot go back, no? Imagine yourself going back to the old times wherein we do not totally rely with capitalism. So kung hindi tayo kapitalista, nung panahon hindi pa tayo kapitalista, syempre hindi mo pa makikita yung need to trade with other countries. Although, 'di ba? When you go to history, 'di ba kung nag-aral ka ng history, as early as Lapu-Lapu and Magellan, meron ng trading of goods, 'di ba? Because it is inevitable, no? Hindi mo siya pwedeng iwasan. So kahit sa kanunuan natin, meron ng trading of goods within countries because yun yung tinatawag natin na comparative, no? Kung familiar kayo doon, comparative advantages and ano. Kasi ang sinasabi diyan, merong mga bagay na we can produce, no, easier in the Philippines at i-trade natin sa ibang bansa and then get the product that other countries can easily produce and then trade that with us. Kasi ang konsepto, bakit ka magpipilit, no, na magtanim ng, let's say for example, ano ba yung wala sa atin? Apples. Why do you need to push or to create expensive technologies in producing apples in the Philippines that may not be at par with other countries' apples, when in fact you can get that from them cheaper instead of creating that yourself? Yun ang point ni comparative advantage. Plus, the concept of transfer of goods, of trading of goods. Kaya nga, ang sinasabi doon, if we cannot go about with trading with goods, how can you say that globalization can go away, no? Hindi na siya mawawala kasi we constantly need to trade with one another, and we constantly need to we will constantly be sharing culture with one another because of the trading. Okay, next. So claim 3, nobody is in charge of globalization. So in terms of the market itself, ang market, guys, there's no one institution or country that controls the market. Even the United States does not control the market, but it can influence, no? It can influence how the market will go because it is one of the largest economies. Siyempre, pag bumagsak ang economy nila, babagsak din ang mga ekonomiya natin dahil nakikipag-trade tayo with them. So, but in itself, the market is not being controlled by anyone because there is a concept of self-regulating market. Certain forces, economic forces, will result to the market adjusting itself. So kapag mababa ang demand, there is a certain force that will increase prices in order to or decrease price, no? In order for demand to increase, no? Kapag naman masyadong maraming supply, there is a certain force that will lower the prices in order for supplies to be sold to people. So, same with globalization. No one is in charge actually of globalization. Globalists are not actually in charge of imposing their political agenda. However, some would claim that the survival of globalization rests not on the markets, but on the political leadership of the United States. That's an assertion, no? That's an assertion that globalization would cease to exist if the political leadership of the United States will be destructive, no? Kung magiging destructive yung konsepto ng pamumuno sa United States, though this is just one assertion, no? But in the end, you do not need to pinpoint one person to be in charge of globalization because there is none. But why the US? Because they have the resources to involve themselves in international affairs and influence other states to behave in a certain manner. So, ang ibig sabihin, kaya minsan na-associate. Yun lang naman ang pinupunto ko dito. The claim 3, Stagger is claiming that there should be no person, no country that could be in charge of globalization. However, syempre, that often happens. Some people would disagree with him. Merong mga taong hindi maniniwala sa kanya at hindi a-agree sa kanya because some people believe that the United States as the global power, world power, is in charge of actually influencing countries of doing trading. The United States can actually influence countries to create policies that would ensure that the market is liberalized and that the free capitalism, no, will continue. So, although the claim is still there, nobody is in charge of globalization. So, you may believe Stagger, but you can also believe other claims, no? Nakikita nyo naman sa reading kung sino yung mga nagki-claim na yan. Claim number 4, globalization benefits everyone in the long run. So, this claim is a bold example of combining elements from seemingly incompatible in the ideologies under the master concept of globalization. So, ito yung sinasabi ni Stagger, no? Na kapag kinlaim ito, this claim actually is born out of the concept that globalization is everything. Yung nabanggit ko last time sa isang video. some people kasi would claim that globalization is everything. Thus, in the end, everyone would benefit from it. Kasi if it covers everything, then you can relate to it in everything that would benefit you. Okay? So, inuulit ko yon. So, sa Tagalog, kung ang globalization pertains sa lahat ng bagay na nangyayari sa atin ngayon, lahat ngayon ng nagbe-benefit ka sa sabon mo, sa paliligo mo, sa pag-aaral mo, you can actually associate that with globalization. That's what Stagger is claiming. No? This claim 4 is actually a representation of how globalization is being used to fit everything, every ideology possible, even though they are incompatible. Pero in the end, naniniwala pa rin siya dito sa claim 4 because of the benefits from free trade and markets. Kasi nga naman, I think, no, I think Stagger was saying that the benefits from trading with one another cannot actually, hindi siya pwedeng hindi ka mag-benefit doon eh. Okay? So as long as we are trading with another country, we are getting goods that we cannot produce. Diba? Unless nakakakuha tayo ng mga goods na hindi na natin kailangang i-produce ng mahirap kasi nga pwedeng sila naman ang magbenta sa atin. So we benefit from that, especially in the long run, no, when we continue trading with one another. Next, claim 5. Globalization furthers the spread of democracy in the world. So this one is very difficult, no? Frieden claimed that Thatcherism, which is a democracy that can be used to promote better economic conditions. So Thatcherism, they contest democracy through its proximity to market and the making of economic choices. For globalists tend to treat freedom, free markets, free trade, and democracy as synonymous. So, ang problema kasi, Stagger would claim that as long as globalization is occurring, democracy will spread, democracy will continue, but in a different form, in a specifically hybrid form of democracy. Ano yung nakaraan natin? Cosmocracy, no? Kung naalala nyo, ang cosmocracy, it is the kind of government or a way of running the government to which you have a state, a sub-state, and a supra-state. The supra-state are your IMFs, the World Banks. The state is, of course, the country. The sub-state are those within the state. Okay? So these are organizations, NGOs, etc. So that's cosmocracy. Polyarchy, on the other hand, kung makikita nyo dyan, represents an elitist and regimented model of low intensity or formal market democracy, which is different from the popular democracy. So it is a hybrid democratic government which is majorly influenced by the market. So popular democracy promotes equal rights and freedom which may be helpful in the proliferation of free market, but it hinders the government to dictate the economic behavior of the people. Sinasabi sa polyarchy, kapag polyarchy na yung kind ng democracy meron ka, people will tend to have lesser capacities to vote. No? Mas kakaunting tao ang pwedeng bumoto. And at the same time, winners of elections cannot be held accountable by the populace. That's the difference. Kasi ngayon, di ba ang democracy, sa democracy ngayon, everyone can vote. That's one. Pangalawa, when you vote someone, you can hold that person accountable for their acts, no, for what they are doing with the government. So according to Francis Fukuyama, there is a clear correlation between a country's economic development and successful democracy. Both Fukuyama and Clinton agree that the globalization process strengthens the existing affinity between democracy and the free market. So I'll make this clear. Claim 5 is basically saying globalization will not destroy democracy. Instead, it will create a different kind of the democratic government. Okay? So linawin natin ulit yon. Globalization will not end democracy. It will create a modified version of a democratic government. So, however, this hybrid version of a democratic government, syempre, different siya sa popular democracy that we know of today. Kasi
very much influenced siya ng processes that undergo or that exist through globality and through globality. So, there is a limit democratic participation in voting and elected, yun nga, nabanggit ko na yun kanina. So, that's what that claim 5 is saying, no? That contrary to what others believe that when globalization occur, governments will cease to provide or governments will cease to continue, no, providing freedom. Actually, kung iisipin nyo nga, di ba sa globalization, dahil liberalization of markets nga, ang konsepto ng demokrasya ay naka-ano sa kanya, naka-fit sa kanya. Why? Di ba, katulad sa Pilipinas, nabanggit ko na rito sa isang video, democracy is basically the promotion of freedom, right to expression, freedom to ganyan, freedom to choose, no, freedom to buy whatever you like. So, as long as globalization is there, the possibility of democracy being promoted will be there as well. No? Kasi kailangan mo yun. Kailangan mo yung freedom to choose, freedom to be influenced, no? And freedom to undergo the process of liberalization as well. So, yun. Then claim 6, globalization requires a global war on terror. So this claim attests to globalism's political responsiveness and conceptual flexibility. It is a combination of the economic globalization idea with openly militaristic and nationalistic ideas associated with the US-led global war on terror. So claim 6 is contingent and less important than the other 5. Because when the global terror is no longer an issue, globalism will still continue. So si claim 6 actually is basically is a US based claim, no? Kasi ang sinasabi nito, since the United States has an initiated war on terror, globalization is now required, no? A global war on terror. So warnings from scholars that globalization is actually Americanization or McDonaldization. This means that globalization is highly influenced by the Americans. Thus, their initiative versus terror also becomes the center of globalization. Meron ding binanggit si Stagger sa isa sa mga readings niya before that yung nung nangyari nga, 'di ba, sa 9/11, the 9/11 incident prompted a global war on terror from the United States. And because of that, influences and ties between countries have been created in order to ensure who are the allies and who are not the allies. So aside from that, because of these influences, no, liberalization of markets are also affected. Okay? So kaya nga ang sinasabi dito, parang nakasentro nga, kung mapapansin nyo, nakasentro madalas ang konsepto ng globalization sa kung ano ang initiatives ng United States. That's what Claim 6 is saying. Pero gaya nga ng sinabi ni Stagger, it is contingent. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya isa sa mga requirements actually talaga ng globalization. It's something that just came up because the United States move, no? Yung move ng United States towards this war on terror affects everything that countries will do as well, the markets as well. So, yun. So, to conclude, Stagger used, no, the foundations from Frieden's criteria of political belief systems to establish a distinction between globality, globalization, and globalism. The 6 core claims provide a clearer version of globalization and what could be expected from it. Thus, the goal is not just to define the concept, but also to realize that the multitude of processes that involve are already in place. They may not be clearly evident in our daily lives, but the next lessons will focus upon its manifestations in areas such as the economy, culture, politics, etc. So, basically, the purpose of week 1 and 2 is to make you understand that globalization is a messy thing, no? Basically, isa siyang magulong bagay, pero the point is there are certain points of inquiry to which globalization could be identified. So,
kahit na sabihin mong maraming definitions, no, meron pa ring mga similarities with these definitions. That's the reason why I made you work on that exercises. Kasi I want you to see that despite the differences on definitions, it boils down to certain similar things. Like for example, even though we associate globalization with certain ideas such as the economy, you cannot deviate the concept of culture with that. When we say globalization and we connect it with the political system, you cannot deviate the economy and culture with that. So, at one point, there are certain points of inquiry wherein you can identify what globalization is. The point, ang challenge na lang siguro is to understand whether as a process, no, globalization is indeed happening. Kasi yun ay isa sa mga pinagdedebatihan pa rin. Okay? So, this is the end of the presentation, and I would like to reiterate that we will be having a quiz after this. So I want you to be prepared because there are certain questions, although the questions are objective, multiple choice, true or false, as far as I can remember. And identification, multiple choice, true or false. So, but there are questions that are not in the PowerPoints. They are in the readings. So I suggest, and some of the questions are examples. So I suggest that you try to not to memorize, but to reimagine, no, to put into heart that the kind of examples, what does this concept mean and what is its example. So let's say for example, globalization, kung naalala niyo globalization is basically the borrowing of a certain culture and adapting it to another culture. So kung kunwari, nagpalabas ang South Korea ng Descendants of the Sun and you made a Filipino adaptation of that, that's globalization. Now, how would you differentiate it with cultural relativism? Cultural relativism is to pursue a certain concept of the. It's different from globalization in a sense that so cultural relativism is basically not judging one culture in terms of your culture. So let's say, for example, our culture is not used, at least for the Tagalogs, our culture is not used to people wearing hijabs, or no, the thing that Muslims put in their heads. So cultural relativism is basically telling you that you should not judge the process, should not judge the culture of wearing hijab of Muslims based on your own culture, because in our own culture that's basically something that we don't normally see. So parang in a sense that's taboo, no, in a sense. Pero if you are practicing the cultural relativism lens, you would look at the hijab and realize that in their context. So you would ask, why are you wearing hijab? What does it signify? What does it why do Muslims do it or have this kind of wearing? So let's say similar with Catholic people, no, 'di ba? We pray the rosary, which is not something that other religions would do. But cultural relativism would say that you don't have to judge that said culture based on your own context. You based it on the context of that particular culture. Let's say for example, why are they doing it? Yun nga nabanggit ko nga kanina. So that's very very much different with globalization. No. Pero kaya siya na i-associate sa globalization kasi pag nag-adapt ka ng Descendants of the Sun, merong mga kulturang South Korean that we would not understand. Thus, the need to be culturally relative, the need for cultural relativism. Kasi, kung magpapalabas ka ng something na kultura ng mga South Korean and we won't totally understand it, presenting TV shows such as Descendants of the Sun will result to judgment of culture of South Koreans because you are placing it on our culture.
So dahil hindi naman yun yung nararanasan natin sa Pilipinas, there would be a tendency to judge na bakit ganito yan? Bakit ang mga South Koreans ay ganito? So, you try to fit that in our context. Kaya may mga, kaya di ba sa mga palabas na ganyan, merong ways to shift the show in such a manner that the culture would be understood by the people who are watching. So please have the time to read the readings, and aside from the videos, and in order for you to get a higher score, no. But if I think studying the readings and watching the videos or studying the presentations are enough. As long as you have read the readings, that would be enough, I think. So that would be all. Thank you, and good luck with our quiz.